My name is Camille Arden, and I'm 29.
Competence doesn't sparkle, it clicks. The dishwasher breathes at 12:00 a.m. because I taught it thrift. The thermostat inhales before dusk, like a violinist catching a breath. My budget app pulses a small green square in the corner of my phone. Paid, paid, paid. People mistake that quiet for meekness. They don't realize a net is supposed to be silent until you're falling. Ethan calls the net a buzzkill. Then he says he loves how nothing surprises me. Both can be true. I work logistics for a mid-sized distribution company. Nothing glamorous. Pallets, deadlines, a whiteboard that looks like a war map. This year I landed the client that saved us from layoffs. My boss closed the door and said thank you with a number, $42,000. After taxes, $28,000. The biggest single deposit my account has ever tasted. I told Ethan that night. He was slicing limes for a pretend margarita we didn't really need. Babe, he said, eyes going glossy, this is our turning point. He was 27 and good-looking in a way that always found ring lights. 20 hours a week at a boutique, bare minimum rent contribution if you called it that. We can finally get the car. Europe. There's this jacket. God, you'll die. I smiled because the room wanted that from me. We're a team, he added, and the word landed with the soft thud of a promise turned into a claim. Your bonus is our bonus. Something in me tilted, the way he said you're an hour, but I just nodded. Of course. Ethan started bookmarking. Europe boards, designer tabs, a weekend to manifest. He posted a story. When the universe delivers, say thank you. I said thank you in a different direction. My parents don't ask. They both have hands a lifetime older than their birthdays. Dad with a mechanic's jaw and scars. Mom with register wrists. A mortgage like a lingering cough. $26,000 left and 8 more years of payments at their pace. I grew up watching them skip restaurant dinners to keep the house ours. When Mom joked that Dad might have to postpone retirement past 65, the joke had a weight. The bonus hit on a Thursday. Ethan showed me a cart of investment pieces. I kissed his temple, made tea, and later, while he fell asleep scrolling through travel hacks, I opened my laptop in the dark. Bank. Cashier's check. An address for a mortgage servicer I knew by heart from years of Christmas morning anxiety. I wrote anonymous payer in the memo. The rest, $2,000, went into my emergency fund, the smallest, greenest square. The next evening, I came home to shopping bags in the living room like acrylic trophies. Ethan spilled out of the kitchen with a grin. I know the bonus hasn't hit yet, but the sales were insane. I put about $3,000 on my card to get us started. Future us will thank me. Future me did not say thank you. What happened with the bonus? He asked when I didn't match his pitch. Did they change their minds? It came through, I said, but it's gone. He blinked. Gone where? I had obligations, family. Silence like the pause before glass thins in a fire. Allocated, I added, because logistics is a language. Allocated? He repeated, like tasting a flavor he didn't order. You mean our money. Personal obligations, I said, careful with tone. Important ones. He laughed once. We're a team, remember? You can't just spend $28,000 without talking to me. You spent $3,000 without talking to me. That was for us. He held up a shopping bag like a priest presenting a chalice. Presentation is half of Europe. No, I said, softer than the word wanted. That was for you, on your card. He set the bag down too hard. You're unbelievable. In the quiet, the dishwasher clicked alive because I had told it to. Ethan flinched. It sounded like a verdict. He tried a different angle. Listen, my mom, Lydia, she's going to ask about our plans. I told her you finally had breathing room. She said it's great you and I are building, together. That word again, heavy with unasked permission. I pictured my parents' house looking the same and feeling new. My mother would call the bank and ask if there's been a mistake. She would argue with relief until the representative convinced her the account was closed. My dad would pretend his voice didn't shake. Ethan followed me to the bedroom. Where did it go, Camille? You don't need the details, I said, and heard how that sounded. It's done. It mattered. To who? He said, and the way he cut the word in half made me want to sit on my hands to keep them from shaking. Because right now it feels like strangers matter more than your boyfriend. They aren't strangers, I said. My mom said you'd do this, he muttered, almost to himself. Act like a saint while you're actually controlling. Controlling would be me telling you what to do with your money. I pointed toward the bags. I didn't. You don't make enough to talk like this, he said suddenly. He was the kind of pretty that made cruel lines look elegant. You think the company gave you that bonus for being sweet? They gave it to the team. The team is us. Then the team can start by you paying your own credit card bill, I said, quieter, because anger burns fuel I prefer to save. He stared at me, jaw flexing. Then, where did you put it? He took a step closer. If you love me, you'd tell me.
I love you enough to say no.
He smiled without humor. I'll find out. Your mom can't keep happy secrets. I'll make sure they know where the money came from and who took it from us. The room went cold around the thermostat's sigh. He brushed past me, shoulder deliberate. We're a team, he said from the doorway, voice low and new. You just declared war on half of it.
The next morning, my phone lit up with a call from a name I'd saved but rarely used, Lydia Vale. Ethan's mother had the tone of someone who believed in good china and emergency contacts.
Camille, she said, as if my name were a verdict.
Ethan tells me there's been a misunderstanding about your bonus.
I stared at the kettle as it clicked toward boil.
There's no misunderstanding.
In a relationship, she continued, warm as a winter sun that doesn't melt anything, what's yours is shared. You've benefited from Ethan's generosity for months. He's an artist with a brand to uphold. Presentation, travel, wardrobe, those are investments. You can't expect him to carry that alone. I held the phone away an inch, like that might soften the script. I pay rent, utilities, groceries. I don't expect anything of Ethan that he isn't already doing. Then why are you withholding from him now? Her voice brightened, like we'd reached the part where I apologized.
Be reasonable. Set aside half. You can keep the rest for whatever little project you had in mind.
It was impressive how her sentences stacked like frosted layers around a rot. Lydia, I allocated the bonus. It went to something important. It's not up for renegotiation.
A pause long enough to count. To your parents, she guessed. And the way her voice sharpened told me exactly who Ethan had been practicing with. How sentimental, and how unfair to my son. What's unfair, I said, is presenting other people's income as your family's emergency plan.
She inhaled. I'm disappointed. I always thought you were a team player.
We must mean different sports, I said, and hung up before the kettle screamed.
By noon, the group chat pings started. We love you, Ethan. Economic abuse is real. So proud of you for speaking up. He must have posted a vague story rectangle, heartbreak font, black background, talk of betrayal and scarcity. The loyal chorus assembled right on cue. Marissa from the boutique, Ashley, who had a trust fund and strong opinions about labor, two of his gym acquaintances who used King as a greeting. I silenced notifications, finished a vendor call, closed a lane assignment before it snarled. At 5, I came home to 8 people in my living room. Candles, cheap Sauvignon Blanc, a phone on a tripod aiming at my hallway with an LED panel to make the carpet look expensive. Marissa wore a sweatshirt that said "Girls Support Girls," which didn't seem to have fine print for girlfriends who don't pay rent.
Surprise, Ethan said, as if any part of this belonged to Joy. We're doing a support night.
For what? I put my bag down, deliberately on a coaster.
The rent you don't pay?
We're here for a victim of economic violence, Ashley announced, which was something she'd learned on a podcast and now wore like credentials. It's abusive to control money like this. Abuse looks like taking people's things, I said. Ethan took $3,000 worth of things before a conversation. That was a seed, Ethan said smoothly. You're supposed to water seeds. Everybody out, I said, not raising my voice. Now. They shifted, uncertain. Social courage blinks in fluorescent lighting.
You wouldn't, Ethan said, soft with dare. I pulled out my phone. I'll call the police. It's my lease. Your guests I did not invite.
Wow, Ashley whispered to her camera, like she could narrate me into a villain. But one by one they filed out, leaving half-full glasses and a smell like impatience. Ethan lingered, jaw playing at angles.
What did you tell your mom? I asked, when the door clicked shut.
That you're stingy, he said. That you think you're better than us. That you're going to learn partnership, even if you have to be taught.
He sounded proud of the phrase. It sounded like Lydia's handwriting.
He spent the next day in spreadsheets. I could hear the click of keys, like someone playing at work. That evening, he slid a printed document across the table with a little flourish. I itemized what you owe me, he said.
I read it twice. Lost opportunity costs for trips we didn't take because I'd rather save. Emotional labor, quantified at a rate he'd found on a blog. An absurd future earnings deduction because he was too stressed to network this week. A grand total of $18,000 in crisp ink. You missed a line item, I said. His eyes lit, greedy for loopholes. What? Back rent for 18 months. I did the math out loud so the numbers landed. $2,100 a month. You've paid $0 of that. That's not how relationships work. Apparently, they work by your definition when it suits you. I put the paper down. You have 30 days to move out. He barked a laugh, then blinked when I didn't join. I have rights. You're not on the lease. You have 30 days. He stared at me like a stranger, then reached for his phone. We'll see. Lydia knows people. The workplace call came 2 days later. HR asked me to step into a glass room that always made me feel overexposed. We received an anonymous complaint about your character, the HR manager said carefully, as if the air might trigger a claim. We're not investigating your personal life, but since we were contacted, we need to document. Anything you want to provide? Context? I slid my phone across the table. Screenshots of group chat dog piles, texts with threats about exposing my anonymous gift, a call log from Lydia's number, a photo of the support night with the LED light glaring like a courtroom. The HR manager's mouth flattened. I'm sorry you're dealing with this, she said. Real, not policy. We'll document the harassment and note that it's external to your work. If anything escalates, let us know. I walked out feeling both seen and extremely tired. That night, while the dishwasher hummed and the thermostat preened, I stood in the hall with a small box from an office supply store. I installed 2 cameras in the common areas, tiny eyes tucked discreetly near the bookshelves and the lamp. Legal for my own home. I told no one. Not secrecy, just preparedness. Logistics, again. Ethan watched me from the doorway. Creepy, he said. Documentary, I said. He rolled his eyes. Keep pretending you're the reasonable one. Days stacked. He tried kindness like a costume. Maybe we both overreacted, he cooed one morning, making pancakes he knew I didn't eat midweek. Help me with the card and we'll forget this. No, I'll have to pay interest. Yes. How is that fair? Those purchases were for our future, he tried again, like repetition might hypnotize. Name one thing in those bags that belongs to both of us. He breathed through his nose. The lingerie, he finally said. That you'll take to your next relationship. Pass. The mask dropped. I know where you put it, he said. Your mom called you last week. She's a terrible liar when she's happy. I didn't answer. I will tell them, he said, savoring each syllable. I will call your parents and ruin your little anonymous gift. I will make them feel guilty for taking money that should have been mine. Something inside me went still. You won't, I said. Try me. He smiled, wolf and boy at once. Or you could reconsider that 18,000. We could call it a lesson. I spent that night not sleeping, inventorying disaster. The next morning, I called a friend who'd gone to law school and accidentally become my emergency contact for reality. Extortion adjacent, she said after reading the texts. Messy to prove. Document everything. Don't take the bait. Protect yourself. If he crosses a line, you'll be glad you have a record. Records I could do. On Tuesday, a calendar square painted itself red. 9:47 p.m. Home from a run, cheeks still hot with winter. The hallway camera watched me throw keys in the dish. The living room camera watched me see it. My laptop open on the coffee table, light pooling on the rug like a quiet emergency. Ethan, I called. No answer. On the screen, my banking homepage sat behind a login error. 2-factor alerts crowded my phone. Did you try to sign in? Did you try to transfer? I didn't have to guess the rest. I found him in the bedroom, looking at his hands. Did you try to access my account? I asked. It's our money, he said, with a righteousness that made my mouth taste like metal. No, I said, it's attempted theft. I was checking, he flailed, to see if you were lying. I walked to the entryway, pulled the little device remote from the planter, and saved the clip of him at my laptop. The hesitation, the typed password, the frown, the second attempt. Don't do this, he said when I picked up my phone. What? Call the police? I said, hearing the calm that happens when anger doesn't know where to put itself. I'm going to show them footage, and the texts, and the threats. He tried crying. It didn't fit his face. 2 officers stood in my living room 20 minutes later, patient as librarians. Ethan told them he was my partner. He said we shared everything. He almost said team before he swallowed it. I showed the footage. I showed the login attempts. I showed the spreadsheet, for color. The officers didn't arrest him. They issued a formal warning. They said the word fraud carefully, like a line on the floor.
You have 48 hours to leave, I said, while they could hear me say it. He stared at the officers instead of me. Where will I go? That's your problem to solve, one of them said gently. After they left, the apartment felt like a room after a storm, intact but listening. Wednesday was quiet, Thursday was not. I woke to a hollowed-out kind of silence. The closet looked surgically relieved of anything of his, and too many things of mine. My watch, my grandmother's small gold pendant, the PS5 I barely played, a pair of headphones I loved because they made the world sound like a promise. On the table, a handwritten note in Ethan's looping confidence. Holding these as collateral until Camille pays what she owes. Proof and video. My phone pinged. A link to his story. Him filming himself unplugging my console, saying I gave it to him to hold. In the video, he smiled right into the lens. I didn't laugh, though part of me wanted to at the audacity of documenting your own crime. I tapped the camera app, saved the living room clip of him stuffing my watch into his pocket, noted the time. Then I dialed the same number as last night, and when the officers asked if I had proof, I said, several angles. Okay, the dispatcher said, we'll send a unit. They did more than that. By sunset, my things were back on my dining table, quietly shining like they'd never left. The officers explained warrants and possession and how Lydia had tried to swat away reality at her doorstep. Ethan spent a night somewhere colder than his righteousness. On Friday morning, a public defender called me. If he agrees to move out immediately and cease all contact, she said, professional but human, would you consider dropping charges? Yes, I said, with a restraining order. There was a pause, then a pen on paper. Understood. I hung up. The apartment listened. The dishwasher sighed, the thermostat breathed. My phone was a green square of quiet. I texted my parents a photo of the sky and said nothing about mortgages. Then I set a clock. 48 hours from now, Ethan would be nowhere in this space but the absence he left. The doorbell rang. I checked the peephole and exhaled a laugh I didn't expect. Lydia stood there, chin lifted, holding a casserole like a peace treaty. Camille, she said sweetly to the camera over the door, because she knew it was there, because of course she did. We need to talk about the terms. Lydia Vale stepped over the threshold like she owned the lighting. Her perfume arrived first, soft and expensive. Behind her, another woman hovered. Tall, pearl earrings, phone already recording. We're here to mediate, Lydia announced, placing the casserole on my counter as though it were an offering to civility. There's nothing to mediate, I said. Ethan is moving out. The second woman smiled, brittle and ready. I'm Linda, she said, Ethan's aunt. I'm recording for documentation. Good, I said. Record this. I opened my phone gallery, found the footage of Ethan packing my things into bags, the timestamp clear, his own narration louder than the TV in the background. Holding these until she pays me. I pressed play. The smile slid off both their faces. Lydia reached out and stopped the video halfway through. You can't? Sure I can. It's evidence, I said. He's lucky I agreed to drop charges if he leaves quietly. Lydia's composure thinned. That boy has given you his best years. And you're ruining his reputation over a misunderstanding. Stealing isn't a misunderstanding, I said. It's a felony. Linda's recording phone trembled slightly. Lydia's lips pursed, then flattened into steel. You think the world will side with you? A company girl who hides behind HR? I know people. All I have to do is make one call. Already made it, didn't you? I said. HR documented it as harassment. They'll be thrilled to know this visit happened too. Lydia faltered, then recovered. You've become cold, cruel. No, I said, prepared. They left without the casserole. By Sunday, Ethan's things were gone. The keys, both copies, lay on the counter, one with the tip bent like a small rebellion. The silence was the right shape again. 2 weeks later, I received a certified letter. Notice of dismissal, case resolved, restraining order granted. Ethan couldn't contact me in any form, digital, physical, or through third parties. I thought that would be the end of it. But endings, I've learned, like to echo. 3 months later, the echo arrived in my inbox. A LinkedIn message from Ethan Vale. Hey, I know we're not supposed to talk, but I wanted you to know I'm getting married. She's amazing, and I finally understand what a real partnership feels like. Just thought you should know what you lost. Also, I still think you owe me closure about the money. I didn't reply. But curiosity is a stubborn weed. That night, I looked him up. His profile photo was new, him in a blazer that didn't fit quite right, holding a drink in a rented apartment's kitchen. The fiancé was tagged, a 22-year-old coworker from the boutique, posting captions about healing energy and soft masculinity. Part of me pitied her. The other part didn't. A week after that, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. The voice was unmistakable.
Camille, Lydia began, cautious. She doesn't know I'm calling. Ethan's making a terrible mistake with this girl. You were stable, successful. He realizes now what he lost.
Lydia, I said, there's a restraining order. She ignored that. He's struggling. The credit cards, the car lease, he's drowning. If you could just help him clear a few payments. No, you're heartless. That bonus could have changed his life.
It did, I said. It showed him consequences. You were going to be his wife.
Thank God that didn't happen. Silence stretched. Then she tried the soft approach. He's learned his lesson. He still loves you.
He loved my money, I said.
That's not true, she snapped. He just wanted to be taken care of. Is that so wrong?
When he contributes nothing? Yes.
Lydia sighed, old and theatrical.
You've always been stubborn. Fine. But when you're older, you'll realize men need to feel supported.
I'll support the ones who don't call theft affection, I said, and ended the call.
Later, curiosity tugged again. Through a mutual acquaintance, someone who still worked at the boutique, I learned the rest. Ethan told his new fiancée he was debt-free, that he had family money coming. He bragged about how his ex had hidden assets during their relationship, that she'd owed him thousands.
He was already repackaging himself.
Same story, new audience.
I scrolled through the fiancé's profile once more.
Her captions were still pastel and optimistic. Love is a partnership. He believes in my dreams. I closed the app. Not my circus.
6 months after he moved out, my parents called.
Mom's voice was lighter than I'd ever heard it.
Camille, the bank confirmed the mortgage is gone. Your father can finally retire next spring.
I smiled into the phone. That's amazing. They said it was an administrative correction, she continued, laughing. Imagine, a mistake in our favor. Can you believe it?
I can, I said. Dad took the phone then, his voice rough and happy. You should come home for the party, kiddo. We'll grill in the backyard like old times. Wouldn't miss it.
When the call ended, I sat in the quiet glow of my apartment. The dishwasher murmured, the thermostat sighed. I thought about the $28,000 I'd once called a windfall, how everyone had tried to divide it, own it, claim it, and how it had ended up exactly where it was meant to go.
It freed 2 people who earned their peace, and it freed me from someone who never would have. I received one final message the following month. From a mutual friend, subject line, "You need to see this." It was a short video. Ethan again, sitting in a half-furnished apartment talking to the camera. You know, he said, money changes people. Some people can't handle success. They get controlling. They forget what being a team means. In the background, his fiancée's voice. Babe, did you pay the internet? He turned the camera off. I closed the email, set my phone down, and exhaled. People think competence is boring. It isn't. It's rescue disguised as routine. The dishwasher clicked to life right on time, as if agreeing. Some nets, I thought, are worth weaving even when nobody's watching.